Maybe if I should sit up. Hmm.
Okay, so if everyone's ready, everyone's doing okay?
Yes, one moment. I'll shut this cord.
No problem. Okay, so welcome everyone to the specialty panel part two. Thank you all for joining, especially our doctors. Thank you for volunteering your time to educate our members on your specialty and where you are in life to help them in their next steps.
No problem.
Just want to, I would like to introduce our doctors. We have Dr. Eva Boldridge, and Dr. Eva Boldridge earned her DMD from the Medical University of South Carolina. She then pursued advanced training in prosthodontics at the University of Texas Health Center at Houston School of Dentistry. Welcome, Dr. Boldridge. We have Dr. Tamara Willis, who is a restorative and implant dentist from Houston. She earned her DDS from University of Detroit Mercy School of Dentistry. With 5 years of experience as a general dentist, Dr. Willis pursued a specialization in periodontics. We have Dr. Tanya Bassoon, who received her DDS at Stony Brook University School of Dental Medicine, then completed a GPR at NYU Winthrop University Hospital. And please correct me if this is incorrect. So for today's agenda, our panel aims to inform students considering specialization by sharing real life experiences and challenges. So our panelists will have 2 to 3 minutes to speak and answer each question. And then we'll give them a break where I will then update you all on events to look forward to within our community. And then we will have a Q&A. So attendees will be welcome to ask questions to our panelists. And if anyone has any words, feel free. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So our first question is, what inspired you to pursue your specialty and how did you know it was the right choice for you? And if you could also answer, when did you decide which specialty you wanted to apply for? And Dr. Eva, we could start with you.
Okay, so what inspired me to go into prosthodontics? Actually, I started dental school thinking I was going to be a pediatric dentist, and I found out very quickly that's not what I wanted to do. I also had a really good mentor in the prosthodontic department, and I found that while I was in dental school, what really inspired me was creating and problem solving. And I actually could set up a denture really, really fast. And I decided I think that's where I want to go. When I was in dental school was right when implant dentistry was taking off, and it wasn't part of the curriculum at the time. So I wanted to immerse myself into prosthodontics, and that was a very interesting time to enter that field. So there was never a question in my mind. At the time, most people would look at you going, why would you go to pros? But there was so much more to learn. And I wanted to learn as much as I could because I wanted to be at the forefront of where dentistry and implant dentistry was going. So I decided in my junior year, I think, that I was going to do it, right before everyone signs up. And there was never a doubt for me. Now, when I went into maxillofacial, I actually knew I was going to do maxillofacial as soon as I went into pros because I just wanted to keep learning.
Thank you. And Dr. Willis, you can continue.
Okay, well, my path was a little different because I was a general dentist for 5 years first. I worked in community health. And even while in dental school, you just kind of have like a natural affinity to certain things. And like some things just came a little more natural. Like I usually would do well on my perio boards, and it was just interesting to me. And I was like, okay, I'll be a patient myself for crown lengthening because I want to see what it's like all together, the whole experience. So I was like really like in tune with perio. But I just needed to get out. Like I just needed to get out, get things going. So I worked 5 years in community health, but during that time, my practice scope was really limited because my population I was working with. But I wanted to know more about implants. I wanted to do implants. Surgery is one of those things that kind of came natural to me. Um, I just wanted to know the why. Like I knew I looked up courses that I could take in Loma Linda and do all of that, but it still wasn't going to like close those gaps. So I spoke with some mentors of mine. I went to Shadow, and we were like, yes, you need to you need to specialize. Also, a lot of my mentors at that time, um, because things happen in waves. Specialty was the way to go. Okay. So that was another thing. They were like, you need to specialize. More voices. You need to specialize. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And I just knew I wasn't going to get what I wanted. Just started taking a course right quick. I needed to know the crux. I needed to know the why. And so that's why I was like, that's the only way that I'm going to get it. And so I went ahead and applied for perio itself because it just seemed like out of the specialties, it was the one specialty where it's very comprehensive when it comes to the body and the mouth and connecting the two and dental implants, the healing process, periodontal disease. I saw a lot of it in my population that I worked with, and they just kind of connected all of those dots for me. So I said, all right, let's go perio.
Thank you for that.
It's
Dr.
pretty
This is
awesome
you.
that you guys actually went ahead and specialized. I went into dental school thinking that I was going to be an orthodontist, and I was absolutely terrible bending those wires. I used to film my practicals on purpose and have my husband rebend them, just show him the picture. He was really good at that. But I just had no interest in it. So I actually, a little bit of background, I used to be a dental assistant from since high school. So I used to summer, come home, work in the summer, make some money. So most of my experience have been in general dentistry. And I had some really good mentors that were my bosses. And I'm like, they're doing a little bit of everything, right? And for me, the deciding factor was, I don't know if I want to deal with children all day long because I have my own. So I was like, you know what? I can dabble and refer when it becomes too complicated. I don't want to be doing all on X's. I love the restorative part. So for me, general dentistry was the ability to basically dabble where I want to and then create a niche that I love. I really love cosmetics and restorative dentistry. So that's why I decided to just be a GP so that I can dabble in that area a little bit more than doing something, the same thing every day. So yeah.
Sounds good. And we're going to move on to the second question. What are the biggest challenges in your specialty and in your day-to-day, and how do you handle them? And if you could also touch on what was your greatest challenge in applying for and during residency?
So do you want me to start?
Yes, we could continue in that order.
Okay. One of the biggest challenges when I was applying, um, I didn't, okay. The one thing I did have a challenge was, some of the sexism that I encountered because prosthodontics initially was a very male dominated specialty. It is completely the opposite now, in the last 20 years. But in one of my interviews, I always tell people one of my interviews, I was interviewed by one of the co-chief residents of a program, and he told me how challenging the program is because it's very lab intensive when I went in. And he said, it was really hard for me. I had a wife and kids, and it was really hard on my marriage. And he really just didn't think a woman could handle it. And the co-resident, co-chief residents put their hands in their heads in their hand because I could have walked out in that interview right then and there because that's very inappropriate to say while you're interviewing someone for residency. Um, but I handled it well. I told the program director what happened and that I could report them right then and there. But I didn't need to because I didn't want to go there anyways. Uh, but I feel initially the programs were very male-centered and not really open to women. That has changed in the 20 years because there's just so many women in prosthodontics right now. Uh, what I have the biggest challenge every day is the problem solving, which I feel is really a big part of prosthodontics because you are thinking about fixed, you're thinking about removable, you have to think about the patient's health, their ability to heal, you have to think about biomaterials that you are going to use, and the biomechanics of everything. So one of the biggest challenges is making sure you're taking all the information from the surgical all the to the way to restorative part and making sure it works correctly in a patient. And that can become very challenging. That's why most people say when you've got a really bad case, you send it to a prosthodontist because we literally have to take into consideration all the different things from the patient to the biomechanics to the design to the laboratory part. And that's why no day is a repeat and everything is different with every patient. And the way you handle it, or I have found to handle it, is you have to continuously keep learning because research is always changing and the technology is always changing. I've been very fortunate. I use a lot of digital technology in my office, so it's helped refine what I know to make things quicker and easier. And it's also a way for me to share information with my surgeons and with my laboratory. But every day is a different day, and you have to be able to juggle all of that. But I like to, so it's what I do.
All right, my turn. Okay, so biggest challenges while applying. Well, I was kind of non-traditional. I had been out for a while, and kind of my approach has been over the years is I need to get in front of the people that make the decisions, and I need to show them how dedicated I am, tell them how dedicated I am, and just attack it pretty much. So is I was non-traditional because I didn't apply. I didn't go through match um, that traditional way. University of Detroit Mercy was having a continuing education course, a hands-on surgical continuing education course. I saw that the director was going to be there. I also saw that some of the other doctors that while I was in dental school were going to be helping with the hands-on course. And my goal when I went in there was to leave with an interview. And so I took the course, but while I'm taking the course, I'm also talking to them and letting them know this is what I've been doing, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm passionate about. Um, and I did that at nauseum during the whole course and made sure that they saw me, they heard me, and the director asked if I could stay a little, little later, so we could talk about my future goals. And so we talked for a while, and he extended an interview for me a couple of weeks later. And then that's when I sat and I went through the interview process with him. It was about 10 periodontists, all of the attendings that were in our program. I sat down, I talked to each one of them. And during those 2 weeks, I like delved into perio journals. I needed to know what was current, I needed to be ready to talk about research, what was going on, and how I was going to help how I was going to make a difference in the residency program. So the challenge in that is um, I was going with something that was familiar. I was going with something that I went to dental school there. It felt like home. I didn't think about the cost of it. The program is extremely expensive. What? Extremely, like 125,000 per year. So all I'm thinking about, I just want to be there. I want to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I will not leave without a seat. But I didn't think about the whole picture, which is how am I going to pay this back? How long is it going to take to pay it back? How is this going to impact my future financial goals, buying a home, different things like that? And see what other types of programs are even out there. What the philosophy of different programs. I was very, very happy with my training. So, so, so happy. But then again, the financial aspect, that was something during training. Okay, so I think that was my biggest challenge. I went 10x when it came to getting in, which, some people call it obsessive, but I call it, being determined. And and that's how that happened. That takes me into biggest challenges in my specialty. Well, remember those mentors I talked about, that were saying everybody needs to specialize, everybody needs to specialize. By the time I completed my residency, um, the word had got out that, hey, dentist, you should not refer that out. Okay. And we can actually send you to a course in Guatemala and you can learn this in a weekend. You got this, right? And they start hiring consultants, and consultants were showing them the bottom line. Hey, doc, this money is walking out of your office. You can take said class. My other client did it. He's doing amazing. And so when I got out of school or out of my training, that was the mentality, especially in my demographic. Everybody wanted to at least give it a try. And the idea of referring came with it was a little daunting. Everybody wanted to do implants. Oh man, I got diagnosed. I hate perio. I got diagnosed periodontal disease. And then, oh man, then they need to do that before they can get anything fancy. Oh man. So just trying to, because, perio for some reason left a bad taste in a lot of dental students' mouth. But no pun intended. But just dealing with that growth or that learning curve that happened with dentists when they were leaving in comparison to 7 8 years when I was talking to those mentors, what they were talking about. So I think the biggest change was just that shift. General dentists are doing more and going for it, for their livelihood, really, to save their practices and to have more growth, financially and mentally, So that was the biggest challenge for me. How did I handle it?
Yes.
I was supposed to handle it too, huh? I learned how to pivot.
Yeah.
I learned how to pivot. I learned how to um, get out and talk to general dentists and learn my demographic and see what would be the most fulfilling way to practice for myself. So I stayed open and I learned how to pivot.
Thank you. And Dr. Bassoon, on top of your biggest challenges, if you can also touch on your relationship with specialists in your area, as well as how do you figure out who to refer to and when?
Funny you bring that up, but I'll touch back on that. Um, for me, so I'm in Long Island. I went to school in Long Island in New York, which is predominantly Caucasian, white, male field and area. My dental school was a class size of 42. There were only two Black students there. And one of them didn't make it, but I made it. So just going through that and just having a mindset that I'm dope and I have something to offer, one, because of experience and just the passion that I had for the field, really is something that I had to lock into because there are so many opportunities to deter me from just thinking that I'm dope. So when it came to residency, it was tough to prove to people that I deserve a spot because where I was applying, it was almost like I had to go into the inner city and work in a mill, but I wanted a specific residency that would reflect on the type of practitioner that I wanted to be. So I went in and I didn't get all the spots or interviews to the places that I wanted to be interviewed, but the people who did take me, just based on reputation from like my faculty and my mentors, who's like, no, Tanya is really good. Like you need to give her a chance. I just went in and did what I had to do. I was me. Like the field, the skill set is there, the passion is there, and the drive was there. But I was also 8 months pregnant when I started GPR. And I had to prove to myself that I can do this on top of being sick. So my residency program was not really about like learning the skills, I'm going to be honest. It was just about dealing with what I would have to face working and being a clinician on Long Island as a Black female dentist. It's not all peachy, but I get choked up when I talk about it because I try to like repress it. And my friends are always like, your story is unique to you, but it can help someone else. And but my whole entire year of residency was just basically locking in on the vision and honing in whatever skills that I can. And it really made me learn how to deal with people, right? Fast forward, I am about 1.5 years into my startup journey on the same Long Island, um, where people say that I wouldn't make it. I'm here. It's a beautiful place and we're building. So I feel like that whole preparation in dental school into residency was really to prepare me for the next step. Yeah, I say that to say like, if you want it, go after it. And like that Dr. Willis says, like you got to learn how to pivot. And Dr. Golders says, like you have to just ignore the noise and just know from within that you're dope and do the damn thing. Excuse my French, but do the thing, right? Because no one's gonna want it more than you do. So that was my GPR experience. Just getting a chance, like getting in front of the right people who's gonna give me the opportunity and not disappointing myself and not disappointing them and let them know like we made a good decision. Um, my challenges as a GP and a practice owner, honestly, my patients are spoiled. Like know when to refer, and they're like, can you just do it? I'm like, absolutely not. Like it has to be done. Yes, I can take a course to do it. One, do I want to do this? No. Two, like you need to have the best possible outcome. So even though there's a lot of people doing a lot of implants and there's a lot of failures associated with that, and I'm a strong believer in doing things right the first time, giving it the best shot. So for me, my referral source is very small. There are many people that come in, they know you're a startup. Hey, Dr. B, we heard you're amazing. Can we have your patients? I'm like, no, like I actually build relationships with my specialists and people who are like-minded and basically think patient-centered care, not just about the bottom line. Yes, it's a business, you have to make money, but my patients have to be taken care of the way how I would take care of them. So that's kind of like how I refer my patients to my specialists. I have one main oral surgeon, one prosthodontist, about two endodontists, and an orthodontist, and that's kind of like where we are. So
Thank you, ladies, for your stories. It's very empowering. Going to move on to question 3. What is the most rewarding part of your specialty? And what impacted, sorry, and how has it impacted your career satisfaction?
So I guess for me, the most rewarding part of my specialty is being able to reconstruct, to redesign someone's their mouth back to health and aesthetics. So when people ask me, am I a cosmetic dentist? I usually answer, most people are cosmetic because you don't want your work to not be cosmetic. But I take it one step further in the fact that it's cosmetic, it's getting to a patient to a state of health, and it's something that's going to be a long lasting, hopefully, change in the person's life. Because my treatment is not just putting something in the mouth, it's usually educating them about why they got there in the first place, and then helping to change their habits, and then walking them through the steps, getting everything finished, and then getting to them to a state where they can go back to their general dentist. And then I just see them maybe once a year just to check and make sure everything's okay. So I work a lot in conjunction with my general dentist because I don't do any general dentistry. So I only do pros and maxillofacial pros. I get the patients to a state and then they go back to their general dentist. If there's anything that needs to be done general dentistry wise, they go back to their general dentist. Unless the general dentist says, no, I don't want to do that, or I just don't have time, then I can possibly do it. But so being able to help the patient understand how they got there, how to get them back into a state of health that is aesthetic, and then maintaining it. So I see people go from completely withdrawn, not wanting to smile, having severe insecurities, to coming out feeling like their best self. And what's funny is a lot of my constituents are able to get patients to allow them to show their before and afters. None of my patients will give consent for their facials and their mouth before and after. What I usually have to do is just the mouth before and after, and then separately, I take a headshot with them. But most of the time, most patients don't want anyone to see what they look like before. So I'm jealous of those who get patients to do that because none of my patients want to do that. Um, but how has that affected my career satisfaction? Well, it makes me keep wanting to do it. There are cases, I think, if you practice long enough, I think this is my 25th year in practice. We all get cases that nip us in the behind. And I will be the first one to admit I've had some where I had to, the patient went to one of the other prosthodontists in the city and they were able to finish it. And that was a hurt to my pride, that I couldn't get the patient to the way they wanted to, even though to me it looked fine. But what I've done is I've also reached out to that, my constituent. I said, what did you do? And when they tell me what treatment they did, it helps me learn, and it actually affirmed to me that what I said was true. But patients will only allow you to do certain things. They have to give consent. If they don't give consent, they kind of lock you into something. So I'm grateful that I have good experience. I have good relationship with other prosthodontists in the city, because I used to be in charge of the membership for the whole region in my specialty. So I've built relationships with other prosthodontists. I don't see them as competition, um, and I'm able to learn from them. And I feel that if you learn, you keep growing. And when you feel like no one can teach you something, then you're in some trouble. How has that impacted my career satisfaction? Well, like I said, when it does well, it's great. And when I don't get it the way I want to, I get frustrated, but I always try to learn. And that is, I think, the key to almost anything that you do in dentistry. Our technology is changing so fast. Our dental material turnover learning rate is so fast. So you have to keep learning to make sure that you are stimulated and that you're giving your patients the best treatment possible.
All right. Most rewarding part of periodontics. Um, Kind of like I said in the beginning, when it comes to like the comprehensive components with the whole body and it's linked with perio, that has been very, very rewarding because I can look at a patient's health history. I can think about the whole process of healing. I can kind of treatment plan like 5 to 10 years ahead. So when I'm thinking about a patient, I'm thinking about them and functioning and their health and everything over the next like 5 to 10 years. I think that it completely changed how I thought and how I essentially practiced as a dentist. Um, and that has been very, very rewarding. How it's impacted my career was for my first, I want to say 5 years out of residency, I was solely a periodontist. I went around and I worked with the DSO. I covered anywhere between 8 to 10 offices at a time. I was typically working with not dental students, excuse me, younger dentists, maybe out of school 1 to 2 years, and I found myself doing a lot of restorative treatment planning with them. And I was able to help them treatment plan restoratively because of my training. And during my matriculation through the perio program, we spent multiple classes almost every day with the AEGD residents. So during those times and during those, and we also worked with them together in clinic, like we had a partner AEGD resident as well. I learned so much about the restorative end in addition to the surgical part. So I'm helping them with those plans and how to restore and what's going to be an area viable to restore or not, and how to, basically move and shake. And that has really helped with my career satisfaction because it came a point about 3 years ago. That's 3, 4. We're in 25, almost 5, where I said, it's time for me to pivot. And so I do not practice traditionally as a periodontist, as solely as a periodontist. I actually practice as a super dentist. Cue the super music, but I pretty much see restorative patients. So I see the whole gambit. And what was happening with my specialty was I was still yearning to see, oh man, how did that implant restoration come out? Or how did those veneers come out after the crown lengthening? Or what happened at the end. Like it was just like I needed to complete the whole circle to see everything that happened with that patient on the restorative end too. And I was just like again, I was just starting to obsess about that part, and that was like just really, really exciting to me. And so I began to transition myself from being solely a periodontist and pretty much putting myself market wise out as a periodontist to practicing as a restorative dentist I do my own implant, I do everything, still work with, I still do osseous, laser and traditional, thing like that, whatever my patients need. And, and has given me immense satisfaction. I don't think that I would be having so much fun and learning so much if I didn't go through my specialty and go through this path. But it has given me great, great, great satisfaction. So I think that's what it is.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Um, I think for me as a GP, the most rewarding thing is kind of like watching your patients get that aha moment. I'm very heavy on educating you on what's going on in your mouth. We're not just going to come, drill, and fill. We're going to talk about what's happening in your mouth, how it's linked to your systems and everything like that. And it's just like that. Everyone always says, I never had an exam like this before. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is a standard. Um, so for me, it's watching my patients get that click. Like, wow, I have to take this serious. Oral health is actually very important. Um, Another thing that makes me like get fuzzies is like aesthetics, right? So I could totally sympathize with you where you don't get to see that end result, but just going through like the treatment planning with my specialist, if it's needed, thinking about the end in mind and then just watching it like work through the kinks. It's not all easy. Like you prep a tooth and slap a veneer on there. You got to look at form and function and all these different kind of things. And just watching that at the end really makes me like fuzzy. And it's always like the harder cases that I tend to go towards because I think I learned the most from them. And yeah, cosmetics, watching patients get the aha moment and just changes someone's life and really enjoy doing that. That's what makes me like enjoy doing it day and day and day and day and day. That's what satisfies me. Um, how has it impacted my career? I think just my journey and what I present. It also lets people who are like younger come in and see what we have to offer and they like, you can achieve this. So part of me, a big part of me is just like mentorship because I didn't have that. No one took me under their wing and say, hey, do this, hey, do that. Yes, I had like people who were like, you can do it. But when it actually came to like saying how, no one really did that. So for me, creating this bubble of amazingness over here and having someone come in shadow and talk about how you can achieve this and go to the next level. Take this, get a foundation and move to the next level. So I love the fact that you ladies actually like pivot and create something besides like the regular. That's amazing. So essentially just patient-centered care, aesthetics, and mentorship. Those are the things that bring me satisfaction and very rewarding in my field for me.
Thank you, everyone. So, doctors, you all could take a quick water break. We could regroup at 6:40, I'm sorry, within the next 3 or so minutes while I discuss with the group what's to come in our mentorship program. But again, thank you for your words. And then when you get back, we'll do a Q&A with all the attendees. So, for those that missed it, a couple weeks ago, we did a specialty panel. This was our part one of the series. We had a pediatric dentist, endodontist, OMS, oral facial surgeon, as well as orthodontists that spoke. And this is now posted on our YouTube channel that is at The Ambitious Dentist on YouTube. That's dentist with an S. You can find that up here. And I definitely recommend catching that video if you did not of a practice owner. So if you are considering becoming a practice owner in the near future or in the future in general, I definitely recommend coming to this. This will be held at the end of February or early March. The date will be posted on our Instagram page, which is at The Ambitious Dentist. So follow us there. We do follow back. That's for the most up-to-date information regarding our meetings and events. And Valentine's Day is coming up. So a couple girls in the Ambitious Dentist mentorship at my school, Rutgers, we are deciding to host a Galentine's to basically introduce other girls into our program, our mentorship program. So I definitely advise if you guys don't have a group already, try to find some students at your school and maybe you can host your own Galentine. It'll be very cute. And I think if you send us your photos, we'd really appreciate it if you could send it to at theambitiousdentist@gmail.com. And also, if you're in the Newark, New Jersey area, feel free to stop by, email us. We are welcome to all. If you want to join in for the 15th time, if you don't already follow us on Instagram, follow us here at The Ambitious Dentist. That's dentist with an S. On Instagram for the latest up-to-date information regarding our events and regarding our meetings. And it's also through here that you can find our Google Forms, which you can RSVP to our next event. Also, our contact information form is meant for you to put your questions in. So we want to know what you want to see and who you want to hear from and what you want to hear. So feel free to fill out those forms and it'll help us satisfy your needs in terms of this mentorship program because essentially this program is for you. You know, I want all of you guys to get the most out of it. So yeah, definitely fill out that form if you haven't already. That's our contact information form. Okay, so we'll give it just a moment. Once the doctors turn on their cameras again, I'll know that they're ready. And then we can start with our Q&A. This is the final portion of our meeting for this evening. Yes, I'm back. And it is through the Google form that people have asked questions beforehand. So definitely fill out that form if you haven't already before our meetings, and we'll get to your questions. So in case you're not able to make it to a meeting, you can catch us on YouTube and you'll have your questions answered. So for this Q&A, attendees, if you could unmute yourself, if you have a question, raise your hand, unmute. It's very informal. You can ask the question in the chat. But yeah, just feel free to ask whatever questions you need. Now is the time. And yeah, so I'll start with the first question that was asked previously. And this is to anyone on the panel or everyone on the panel. So if anyone is married, how did you manage married life while in residency or in general?
Okay, I'll go first, and I'm laughing because I'm remarried. So I was I was not married in my residency. I got married um, during my residency, and I married a fellow resident in another program. So mine's a little bit more skewed because we were both in residency at the same time. Now, when I went to maxillofacial, he was working and I was still being a resident. So I was married, but not with kids. So I didn't really have that hard of a time. It really wasn't a challenge, except for, there's two of you who are exhausted most of the time. Uh, so I didn't have any problems with marriage during my residency. But I do know some people that did, especially if they're not in your field and they don't understand how much time and how much it takes to study, prepare, and for pros, do lab work late at night. So I was in the lab till midnights a lot of times. So that was very big because prosthodontists are lab rats. So we are there till late at night.
So I was married 7 years before I started dental school. So I think my husband is not a dentist. So when I was grinding away and in residency, having to take that call because I did a GPR. So I was, like I said, I was 8 months pregnant. And I would get, if the PTED called you, I had to roll out of bed, hobble to the car, and drive all the way to the hospital, take care of the patient, come home, take a shower, and go back for the day. So just seeing the stress of that on my body, and I was always tired. He was a little bit annoyed, but I'm like, this is what it is. This is the job. This is the job. So I had a really good support throughout that time. I think communication is important, right? And, and support. So I was fine. He was fine.
And I wasn't married. Um, Somehow I don't even know how it happened. I did get pregnant. So I don't know. So, but all throughout my residency, my mom did live with me. And I had my daughter February of 2014, and I graduated residency that same year. So pretty much my last year. And I do think having that family unit, with my mom living there, like I said, she was living with me even before I was pregnant, but it still helped have like some foundation of support. So whether it's your husband or wife or someone in your family that's close by, that's providing that support during that time, that's really how, I was able to manage um, getting through residency, finishing on time, and all while making a baby. So, yeah, it is.
I would like to interject there because I have gone through a divorce. Uh, that can definitely affect your business and everything. So I've started to tell people, I actually changed my name for my first marriage. When I remarried, I kept my name because it's very expensive to change your name. So you really have to think about those things. If you're going the traditional way as a woman, and that was very costly and time consuming on top of everything else with the divorce. And I think the other thing you need to consider is financial planning. If you get married later on in life and you already have your career, you may want to consider a prenup, all stuff like that. So coming from a different perspective, I throw that in there. Take with it as you wish.
You essentially need someone to be supportive. Like it's a stressful time. You need a really big cheerleader, like and supportive in the highs and the lows. Like that's honestly what you need.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to our screen. Give me if anyone in the audience has a question, feel free to unmute.
I can go. I have a question for Dr. Bassoon. Hi, I'm Haley. I'm a D2 at NSU in Fort Lauderdale. And my question is, so I know that you said you did GPR. I don't know if you specified if that was right after graduation. But if it was, how long did you take before you started your own practice? And how was that going from associateship into ownership?
So I did for New York to get your license, you have to take a GPR, right? So I did it right out of residency. I mean, right out of dental school. I went into residency when it started in August, I believe. And I worked for 6 years. Trust me, like I did not want to open my own, just having that overhead. But everybody knew that I was just gonna end up here just because of my personality and how I want things to be. So it took me 6 years. I opened September 11, 2023. So 6 years of playing around and doing what I want to do, what I felt in my heart to do. Um, so I definitely took 6 years of like learning different ropes, seeing different practices. I didn't like this. I'm definitely not going to do this. Oh, I like this. I'm going to do this. So GPR right out of residency, right out of dental school, and then I took 6 years to get my practice.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I also had a question. Thank you guys so much for this. This was very helpful. I'm Sierra Foster, a first-year dental student at Meharry Medical College School of Dentistry and a recent graduate of Spelman College. I was just wondering because Dr. Willis talked about how residency can be expensive. So, as a first year dental student, seeing those costs come up on my account, it'd be like, oh, this is all loans. Like, none of this is me. So, what does that repayment process look like for you all? And, like, did you have any different avenues for repayment? Like, how did that all look for each of you?
Okay, I can go a little bit. For dental school, I worked in community health for my first 2 years out because I was a National Health Service Corps scholar. And being that Detroit Mercy is a private school, even, back in my time, I went to school 2002 to 2006. And so I think tuition was about 50 grand per year during that time. And so that program itself covered my last 2 years of dental school. And then since I was a scholar, then I had to work in an underserved community. I did that for the 2 years. And then I reapplied to be a loan repayment recipient. And so they gave another lump sum of money to go towards student loans. And so that really helped, cut my undergrad dental school bill in half. And it also came along with a stipend. And I was still, salary was really, pretty strong, kind of, about what when I was working at a DSO, kind of what the GPs were making there. I was doing back then. So it was a really good deal with that. And then I stayed there for the 5 years, and then I went to residency. I think if I was thinking about redoing things again, probably would did the 2 years for my loan repayment and maybe went back a little sooner just to get just to get things moving, just to get things going. And then the repayment process, just whatever fast. So I'm okay. I'm okay with having student loans forever, the rest of my life. I'm fine. Not everyone is like that. Some of my another periodontist I know, he was very, very aggressive. He paid off his student loans. He was very coming out while before he got married, before he had his children, before he bought his first house. He was very, very focused on that, lived minimally. And he's extremely happy, that he got that out the way. So everybody's story is a little different, but yes. So there are ways. There are ways.
I'll jump in on that one because one of my biggest complaints is actually how expensive school is getting. It's really getting to the level of ridiculousness to me. Um, but I was fortunate. I went to undergrad for free. I went to school where my mom worked, so that was great. And at the time when I applied to dental school, I actually applied based on how much the schools cost. So at the time, South Carolina was one of the cheapest schools in the US. And I had the wherewithal to know that anywhere you go, you're still a doctor. So I went to South Carolina, and at the time they had a affirmative action DEI thing where if you were from out of state and a student of color, you got in-state tuition, and that was wonderful. So I had in-state tuition for South Carolina. And I really do, in hindsight, financially wish, or, if I could go back, I probably would have taken 2 years to work somewhere to kind of even pay that off because pros is 3 years. And I worked a little bit as, part-time faculty in the undergraduate clinic, and I worked at the VA at a resident, but still, it's still really expensive. And then for pros, they tell you you should get your master's. Well, I didn't want to pay, I was cheap. I didn't want to pay to the graduate school those certain semesters. So you're paying double tuition to get your master's. And I didn't want to do it. So, do I really feel like I missed anything? No, because I just really didn't see the importance of the MS. Now, as I'm older and more refined, like wine, I see that in some situations, because I do want to teach, having your MS would have helped. But honestly, I was looking at it from a finance point of view. So I was trying to do the most economical route. I'm almost done with paying your student loans, so it can be done. Um, it just takes a lot of time, and I do agree, living below your means as much as possible. And but that gets a little bit harder when you have kids, and depending on what city you live in. Uh, where you decide to set up shop really affects your bottom line. So you really have to think about all those things when you go somewhere. So that's my 2 cents. So I didn't do a research topic, and I never got school burnout. Um, I went straight school to residency. So I was thirsting for knowledge. I never had that problem.
Student loans are still there. They're gonna be there. I live in New York City. It is expensive. Very, very expensive. Everything is expensive. Just having malpractice because I'm in New York City to be a GP is expensive. So the cost is there. That's what I'm saying. You have to like enjoy what you do. Because when you really look at it, it's just like, what? Um, So I still have student loans. I am nowhere near done paying those off. I am newbie to this business ownership. I have two kids in New York City that are in school and daycare, right? So that's a lot of money, a lot of money.
She said a lot in that one sentence. I just want to put that in there. She said a lot.
For two kids, and yeah, it's expensive. So I used to be really like in my bag about it, like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna get rid of this. But you get to learn how to navigate it. We still have to live as a family. We're obviously not lavish, right? There's points, there's goals. There's little goals that I have to set and make tangible goals so that I cannot be stressed out about this monkey on my back, the student loans. But at the end of the day, it's what I had to do. In hindsight, if I were to change something, it took me 6 years to open my own office. So maybe I would have explored one of those loan repayment options where I am in West Bubble somewhere, like doing dentistry and they're paying my loans because I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that for 4 years after school, but I could have because it took me 6 years to get here. So what's the point, right? Explore a different city. Like there's like once you're in New York, you're a New Yorker, but New York is expensive. So definitely where you set up is very important to your bottom line. I second that. So in hindsight, I would have probably explored one of those programs for loan repayment. I did dabble in research in dental school. I did like dental materials and I got like a scholarship for that. But like I said, like you got to enjoy what you're doing. At that point, we were bringing something to the clinic that was going to be used. So it was really cool to like implement that, right, with our research. Yeah. Burnout, not so much in dental school and residency per se. Um, no, I just had a different kind of grit and a different kind of like tenacity to keep going. But burnout is real. And if that be the case, then you need to take a minute, pause, set some boundaries, and reset.
I'd also like to jump in on that because I think in my generation of women dentists, I've seen some people get burnout. Some have pivoted already into doing different things. And I don't think that's wrong. That's honestly your life journey. I think a lot of times we're raised to think you have one career and you're supposed to just stay in that. Some people, through going through everything, find that their calling and their inner drive may be to something else. So I've seen people leave the field. I've seen people do other things on the side that give them more it helps keep their creative. Um, don't limit yourself. Just because you've signed on to this doesn't mean it's the end all of all. It's just they're gonna come for you for that loan money.
Oh, yeah,
So
definitely.
make sure whatever your side fund is, make sure you making money somewhere.
Yes,
Because if
indeed.
this gets too bad, I may be showing my feet on OnlyFans. I'm sorry.
I say that all the time. I'm showing my toe.
And be mad. How they gonna give me $1 for my toe and be mad? I'm gonna circle back because I didn't see the other ones here. Did you do research of any? And if so, what was your topic? So in my perio program, it was all inclusive. So I did earn an MS. I didn't. I wish I had a choice, but I did not have a choice. So my research project was on the it was research on gummy smiles, the causes and treatment modalities for that. And during the time, my director had kind of you know kind of put his own spin on a procedure called lip stat, which is a lip repositioning surgery that he would do to reduce hypermobile lip like mine, or gummy smiles. So that was my research. How did I manage school burnout after graduation and still prepare for residency? So after graduation, I had those 5 years off. So it's kind of like a mind shift where I had to go back into like being a student. And I felt like my attendings were also like ready to kind of put me in my place that you are not out in the real world anymore. And you are a student. And so that's that, I had to come with humility, and burnout, I needed to go to work. So I was, right when I was done, I was ready to keep going. So I really didn't experience that burnout. I was ready. And what kind of skills? Did we answer that one yet? Skills that we learn in residency. Um, the fun thing about my program was that I had courses with the endodontic residents. I had courses with where we sat in class together. I had classes with AEGD residents and the orthodontic residents. I had partners in ortho residency and I had partners in the AEGD residency. And we also had partners in the endo residency. And so that, like I said, it wasn't just only perio focus. We were learning about the whole scope. So I think from learning and restoring implants, overdentures, the the physics of everything, like that's what that's what we really, those are the kind of skills I really learned there.
I'm trying to piggyback on like the burnout thing because it is a real in dentistry now. But I think mentorship is important because you don't have to like make the mistakes that's for yourself. You can learn from someone else's mistakes. So find someone that you can be vulnerable with and who's going to be honest and help guide you through the process to kind of take some of that stresses off because it's real. It's real. And then the last question, what skills did I learn in residency? How to deal with people. Yeah, that because I thought that I just got to be great and show up, and no, unfortunately with my demographic. So that was the main thing from residency, learning how to deal with all sorts of people, but in a nice way. That's a nice way of saying it. But yeah.
I'm going to jump in on here as well. I think one of the things that Dr. Bisson, actually, Tanya, please forgive me, mentioned about making sure you're not alone. And I think the last 20 years, there has been this big problem where I think in all of dentistry, we haven't really been able to, as a whole, I feel support one another or find safe places. I think when I came out, um, if you asked for help or asked a question, people would like shame you for it. I don't know if that's still the thing, but it was very unfortunate. And I think it created a culture where people just did not want to open up. And I find that not everyone should be privy to your concerns and what everything's going on. But I do feel that some of the organizations that are already out there, you can find people who can be pearls for you. I found people in my pros residency in prosthodontics, people who I reached out to. Um, some people in the local society, uh, because especially as a prosthodontist, you have to think about so many different levels. So I have endodontists, I have periodontists, I have oral surgeons and orthodontists. I use my connections within those societies to find people to be sources of information. And some people, you get along with better than others. So I guess this is my spiel to say, don't be alone. Look at what the different organizations are in your area and see if you can find people who are like-minded, who are in the same boat as you right now, and then find some people who are a little bit more seasoned that can be of assistance to you. Of course, we have people who were great to us when we were in school. My program director died right after I got married. So I lost my biggest rock, but I had to find other people that I could reach out to. So using the societies, the different organizations to find your people, use it. People are like, well, what does membership do for me? Well, honestly, you got a bunch of people there who could give you information. You just have to reach out to them. So that's my 2 cents.
Honestly, Dr. Bold, Dr. Baldridge, you kind of talked on the mission of what the Ambitious Dentist actually is. It's a program meant to like bring like-minded dental students and new dentists together and learn from seasoned dental professionals such as yourself. So thank you for your transparency, each of you, because it's moments like this that help our students the most. And also, if you guys are open to having some mentees, if you could drop your Instagram, your email, your contact, so people could reach out, that would be very much appreciated. Um, and we did have a question come in the chat that asks, what's a few great implant postgraduate programs you can recommend, which are MSCs?
What's MSc?
Master of
I'm
Science,
not
I think.
too
Okay. I
in the
don't,
chat.
well,
You all.
I'm kind of Master's of Science. Okay. So, just only specifically for implants?
Yeah, I don't know those programs for, I only know them as the perio
Mhm.
or the perio, the oral surgery, or the
Same.
pros. I know there are some programs that do put both of them together. That
I
I
would have.
really don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you would be able to obtain a master's in just implantology because it doesn't stand alone as a specialty. Um, I know there's the international, um, can't remember the name of it, but it's like an international kind of certification. But if you're serious about wanting to do implants, I mean, like I said, there's two avenues. You can try to find or find an FAGD program that also that also involves implant placement in their programs. And then that way, that would be a 1 to 2 year program for you. Perio is also a 3 year program. Um, and and go from there. I'm not really sure if there's any master programs because part of that master's is your research. And when you do your research, it has to be linked to be like a hospital or linked to a university, or they have to be in collaboration with one another.
So,
So in Detroit, it was St. John Hospital that we um, received like our residency training through, and then University of Detroit Mercy, where we received our master's.
also for me, like if you really want to like learn implants, when you pick your residency, kind of like vet the program because if you're like my program had a lot of like you could place a lot of implants. There's opportunities there where you can learn,
Right.
right? So have that questions in your interview, like what is your main procedure that you offer here to your residents? We have periodontists that came in, oral surgeons that came in, and we had lots of opportunities to place implants. So there's opportunities there as well in your residency program.
Yeah, I'll also jump in there and say, if you do a residency, in most situations, like isn't it true that the GPR, well, I'm not going to say that. Um, but whenever you do get a master's, you're paying for the School of Graduate Studies for that
Correct.
master's.
Mhm.
So just remember, look at the finances of that. I'm not saying don't do it or whatever. I'm just saying that's some extra financing that you need to consider. And I think you need to consider that when you're considering the program and the housing and the tuition of the program, or if it's a program that you will be getting a stipend from.
Thank you, thank you. So that is it for today. Thank you again, doctors, for your time. And again, follow us on Instagram, y'all, because we are a supportive community of individuals that look like us. The purpose of the mentorship program is to let you know that you are not alone. We provide one-on-one mentorship. We provide meetings every month from seasoned dentists that will basically inspire you and guide you on your journey in dentistry. So if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram. And I hope everyone has an amazing rest of their Sunday.
Thanks, everybody. Good
Thanks so
luck. Y'all
much.
got
Thank you.
this.
You guys
Y'all got
got
this.
this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, doctors. Just want to say one more time, thank you so much for taking the time out of your Sunday to do this for us.
Oh, thank you for the
Not a
opportunity.
problem. Not a problem. We need each other more than ever. Y'all better be happy I didn't
Amen.
show up in my black beret because I was about to. I'm feeling real militant. So, real
Don't
militant.
get me started. I
Don't
just
get
left
me. So we'll
church
be on
this
here another
morning.
2 hours. So
Look, I just left church, all right?
mentorship. Please hit me up. If I act like I'm too busy, check me. Please.
Check me,
I,
boo.
check me. I am here for y'all, and we're gonna make it through this. Good luck.
Good luck,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Good
Good night,
evening.
Actually,
everybody.
Dr.
Bye.
Willis,